Okay, chapter 10, retention. Don't fill a leaky bucket. This chapter talked about how to create strong memories and the processes in which we create strong memories. So we're just going to cover those two topics. If you're trying to learn a skill and you can't remember what you're actually trying to learn the next day, then you might want to focus on learning how to create strong memories rather than focusing on the skill yet. Once you know how to create strong memories, you'll save way more time and be way more efficient in learning whatever it is you're trying to learn. So, first, let's cover the 3 ways that we process new memories. The first one we're going to call proactive interference. The second one we're going to call retroactive interference. And the third one we're going to call the lockbox. But what are those? Those were just the names the book gave, but let's talk about them. To help this make more sense, I'm going to give an example of when I did door-to-door sales. I did 2 summers of door-to-door sales selling books, and in the first program, they gave me a script. The script was like this long, and I repeated it thousands of times, hundreds of times a day. So this, you can imagine, was very ingrained into my memory. Like, I could say it to you now. But then the second summer that I did, they changed the script just a little bit. It was enough to where I had to rememorize it, but it was still pretty much the same. So the same script was basically replacing the memory of the old script. So this was proactive interference. Basically, my old memory had to now be replaced with a new memory. Rather than creating a whole new memory, like 2 separate memories, this memory is replacing this memory, right? So a lot of times I would find myself reverting to the old script because this script wasn't strong enough yet. This is where we lead into retroactive interference. After I learned this script really strongly, it basically pushed the first script out of my mind. So I don't think I could even tell you what the first script was because the new script, the one that I know currently, is taking the place of the old script. This is retroactive interference. This is basically, it just erases the old memory. The old memory is gone. And now this will lead into the third, which is the lockbox. That memory, the first memory that I'm talking about, was created so strongly that if I were to probably go back and read the old script, I would probably remember it pretty easily. This would be called the lockbox. It's locked away somewhere, but if I had a cue or a key to remember it, I'd be like, oh, there it is. Yeah, I remember that. I might have to practice it like a good amount of times to like fully bring it back, but that's the lockbox. That's why we don't have millions of memories, every single memory we've ever had, flooding through our mind every day. Because they're locked away. They're waiting for a cue to bring them out. So now that we've covered these 3 things, let's move on to the 4 ways to create a really strong memory. The first one is spacing. This is where instead of cramming everything into like a week of time, if you have a month to learn it, spread it out. That way you can repeat things and you can really like absorb the memories and take it all in and remember it. The second one is proceduralization. This is where you transfer a memory from declarative knowledge to procedural knowledge. For example, let's say you learn a new vocabulary word, okay? Declaratively, intellectually, you know the word in your mind, but you have to keep thinking about it to bring it into your vocabulary. After a certain point, you'll say it enough to where it becomes a habit. Like you don't have to think about it. It just rolls off your tongue. So it became a procedural knowledge. Same with typing. At first, you probably knew in your mind where each letter was, but you had to think about it before moving your finger to that key. But now, you just type. Your fingers know exactly what to do. You don't even think about it. Just it would probably take a little bit of mental effort to rehearse where everything is at now, because it went from mental knowledge, a logistical, like declarative knowledge, to physical knowledge, basically. So that's a good way to remember, is to transfer it into a physical memory, because physical memories are also a lot easier to remember long term. And then this is like muscle memory. Then we got overlearning. We already talked about this, but it's basically where, let's say you need to learn this much amount of knowledge, so instead you learn like up to here. That way, when you need to use this knowledge, you know it so well. You probably won't remember this stuff as well, but you'll definitely know this stuff. And then the fourth one is mnemonics. Let's say I'm trying to learn someone's name. For example, let's take the name Bill. Let's say for some reason I can't remember that name. And I'm like, dude, what was his name? A way that I could remember it is to associate his name, Bill, with an image or an association. So, for example, I could imagine the bill of beat like a bird's bill, or I could imagine like the dollar bill, or I could imagine like getting a bill in the mail, and then I'll be like, oh yeah, Bill, by imagining the association first, because it's easier to bring up in my mind, and then with that association being like, oh yeah, Bill. A lot of times we've done that. A lot of us have used mnemonics to remember names, but you can use it for so many things, and it's very powerful. This is how people are able to like memorize things really quickly, is because they create associations in their head like that are way easier to remember than the actual thing they're trying to learn. There's some people who can memorize like a deck of cards in their order within like a couple minutes, just based off of mnemonics primarily. And so, yeah, the four ways: spacing, proceduralization, overlearning, and mnemonics. So I hope this video was helpful for you guys, and I hope you guys can implement it into your life.